Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I'm your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We give you real life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Arunansu Pattanayak. Arun is a Microsoft executive specializing in data and AI for the financial services sector. With over 20 years of experience working with Fortune 500 companies, he's a thought leader in innovation, digital transformation, and AI-driven solutions. Arun is also an international keynote speaker, author of AI Compliance Made Easy for Decision Makers, and the founder and CEO of Tipsora. His passion for future-proofing businesses through strategic data insights make him a vital voice in today's fast-changing tech landscape. You can find Arun by searching him on LinkedIn at Arunansu Speaks or going to his website, arunansupatanayak.com, or emailing him at arun@arunansupatanayak.com. Hello, Arun. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
To start the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Arunansu Pattanayak?
Yeah, I mean, success to me means having impact, doing the kind of work that people value so much that, ideally, I would like to get all of my business through referral rather than me having to reach out to people asking if they need help, right? So that to me would be the ultimate success that, people just keep coming to me and they value what I do and, they can't stop talking about it.
And that being said, I always say referrals is where the point you want to get to
Yeah.
in business. And some people get nervous when I say that because they're like, well, what happens if you don't get those referrals? You're relying on other people. It very much sounds like you align with me where referrals is really key. Why for you do you identify just being able to get to a point where you're getting those referrals as like the pinnacle of the lead generation aspect of things?
Yeah, I mean, it has to do with the type of business I'm in, right? I'm in the IT consulting, and there are very few people who really understand what that means. It's a generic term, could mean anything. And I'm very, focused on like cloud, data and AI for financial services. So it's a very narrow field, and there are very few people, in this market, right? Uh, and so the type of work that I do, it cannot be described in a Google word, in an ad word, or like, I cannot make a punchline or tip TV ad for this, right? It very much depends on referral, because the people who need my services, they are the ones who are the best to kind of advertise me, because even if I reach out to someone else, they are going to ask me, who did you work for before? And sometimes they would call them and, ask, did he really do this for you? What did he do? Right? It's a type of business that really builds on relationship and referral. The traditional, email marketing, social media marketing, just does not work for this line of business because of the complexity of work involved, right? Because sometimes people ask me, hey, can you send me your pitch deck? I'm like, that's not how it works. I need to have a call with you, understand what you do. I can create a custom proposal for you and then talk to you about, what I can do for you.
Yeah, and I recently saw a post from someone, I think, where they were talking about, the fact they don't have pricing on their website.
Yeah.
And a lot of people look at that as negative. And I don't have pricing on my website. I assume you don't have pricing
Yeah.
on yours. It's because it becomes custom. It's not because you're trying to hide anything. It's
Yeah.
because, to your point, everything is custom and you need to understand the client's needs. And I think that is such a powerful tool that you do is you understand and meet the client where they are and really figure out where they need to be and what needs to happen to get them there, what tools, data, AI, all that. So in a world where data is often called the new oil, many organizations still struggle to turn the raw resources into actionable intelligence. From your experience working with Fortune 500 companies and leading innovations in AI, what do you believe the biggest mindset shift in a business must make to truly future proof itself in this area of data driven?
Yeah, I mean, there are two parts to it, right? So there is a technical thing. There is also a cultural and regulatory thing that gets in the way, right? On the technical side, over the years there have been many innovations in technology. There have been lots of different types of databases, different product. There are ERP solutions. So over time, people kind of did different thing that they got database for building their application. They had their ERP solution for only doing the enterprise work. They have their HR solution, a finance solution, right? And for a larger organization like the Fortune 500 companies where I worked in, it's even more complex because they have multiple lines of business, and sometimes they give everyone the freedom to choose what type of technology they want to use, which is nice. But over time, what happens is it becomes a case of data silos because every team is building their own data architecture, their own set of tools, and at the top, at the C-suite level, somebody's trying to get an insight on what how much are we spending on this, what are our top initiatives, how do we evaluate what is the ROI for this, right? It becomes challenging to get that, right? So there is that part of it, which is a technical problem. The other part of it is just cultural problem that people over time, they get comfortable doing the same work the same way. They don't want things to change because then that would mean that it would be additional work, and they feel threatened that if it's a different type of work that they don't have expertise in, somebody else might come in and take their job. Nowadays, it's like it's not another people, they are even competing with AI because AI is there to do a lot of the work. So there is a resistance to change because the people think change means that it would take away their freedom. That's not really the case, right? You have to evolve with the change, otherwise you will be left out, as we have seen again and again in the history. And on top of that, there are also regulatory challenges. Companies like big financial companies, they have a lot of regulation that they cannot just adopt any new thing that comes out. It has to go through a strict regulatory evaluation to make sure that it meets regulatory guideline, and on top of that, company might have its own compliance requirement. All of that needs to be met to even a company to start accepting a new solution to be available to the organization.
And that being said, you made me think of two questions I want to ask you. And instead of throwing both of them at you, I'll separate them. But the first question is pretty simple in words, but can be very uh, in depth to explain. But why AI? Why use AI and why incorporate that is a main pillar in your business? Because AI right now is such a buzzword, but and you even said, which we'll touch upon momentarily, of like the scarcity mindset that goes along with it. But why is it so important that we use AI and that you bring that to the table?
Yeah, I mean, we need AI for the same reason we need automation, right? So, let's get back to the root of, why, before we talk about why AI, let's talk about why automation, right? Um, Thing is that if your business process depends on manual work, right? So if it's very people dependent, right, then it depends on people's mood, or it depends on, different people might have a different skill set, different perspectives, different things might happen at a certain day. So you don't always get that consistent output, right? Whereas if you automate using a computerized script or something, then you can always expect that that thing will be done this way and it will take this much time, right? So that's what has happened in most of the manufacturing today. A large part of how the cars are getting made, how large plants are operating is all, most of it is a robotic process, right? So and they are doing that to be able to consistently deliver these product in a consistent manner, which is built the same way without much defect, with everything tested, right? In IT, most of the applications that are deployed, we call it CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment. So it's a process that's used, the script deploys the application so that it's always consistent, it always does the testing, right? So we needed automation for to maintain that consistency of output, right? AI is just the evolution of it, right? The idea of AI was that, like back in the day, we used to watch Star Trek, where there was this computer that you talk to the computer and say, this is happening. What do you think could it be? And the computer says something, and then you say, okay, well, adjust this, and it does it, right? So that was kind of the vision behind AI. And today, right after ChatGPT, we are kind of starting to see that materialize, right? Like in Microsoft, the AI is called the Copilot, right? So now it's called Copilot, not Autopilot, because it doesn't automatically do the work. There is always human in the loop, right? Which does it, and it kind of mimics that same idea of talking to the computer, first asking what is this, then telling do this, right? So it's a human that's driving, but it's the AI that's doing. And when AI does it, it gives you the same advantage as automation, that it always does things in a consistent manner, and it produces output in a consistent manner, right? So you always make sure that things are done the way it should be. And so now that AI is there, there is always this case where people who are adopting the new technology, they are ahead, and if you don't catch up, you are going to be left behind, right? Over the years there have been, like, when computers came out, right? If you're not using the computer, you are going to be left out, right? If then there was cell phone, then cloud, and now it's AI. The same thing is happening, is that people who use AI, they have a competitive advantage, that they are able to do things faster and better than others. So unless you are working with AI, you are just not going to survive the new race that we have in the AI age, right? So that's why we need AI. It's just not an option anymore. You have to, if you want to survive the next, technical evolution, you just have to go with AI.
I love, and I want to emphasize love, how you have aligned in your explanation and even what you were talking about previously, AI equals automation just at a next level. Because
Yes.
so many people, and to what you were saying previously as well, look at it as taking their job away. And I get asked that question a lot when I sit on the board, an international board for the Association of Supply Chain Management. And in the state of Connecticut, our board is very experienced, and they have their processes, they have their procedures in their job. And we recently brought in someone to speak about just the AI, and multiple people were like, okay, but it's going to take away my job. And I think that's a big stigma around it. And it's an easy clutch to lean onto when we're debating it, especially when, like you said, you don't want to break your routine and that change.
Yeah.
So before I dive into the other sector of the question that you made me think of, I just want to follow that up with why do you think people lean on the aspect of it's going to take away my job? Does it come from a misunderstanding of how to correlate AI with automation and leveraging a tool? Does it come from a place of just not wanting to learn it? What do you think is really the catalyst behind people not wanting to lean into AI?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. I mean, humans are naturally afraid of the unknown. It's that fear of the unknown. This is a new thing. It's going to change thing. I don't know what will happen. I like the way things are today. So then that goes to that comfort zone that I have been doing it this way. I would like to keep doing it for the rest of my life. That way, my life stays as it is and it doesn't change. But then that's really not realistic, right? Because another thing that people don't understand is that it's not that AI or any kind of technology takes away job. It just resets the market. you know Over the year we have seen that as technology has advanced, it has always created more job, and it has created better life for everyone, right? In the old days, like, people were either farmers or doing some kind of manual work, right? Then came the industrialization, where we had factories, and things were getting built using larger machinery, right? And that industrial revolution created the type of roads, the type of houses we have today. It created comfortable life for everyone, right? And when computers came out, again, people were afraid, oh, computer is going to do my job. I mean, yeah, it did, but then it freed time for people to do more higher level of work. So now we have jobs like your SEO optimization, right? Search engine optimization job did not exist until we had search engine, right? And search engine wouldn't be there if we did not have computer, right? The same thing is happening today. So as AI gets used more and more in business, there will be new types of job. There will be job on human and AI interface to study, how humans react to AI. There are now jobs for prompt engineer. There are jobs about answer engine optimization, just like search engine optimization. Now we have answer engine optimization specialists that you people are not searching for it. People are just asking Copilot a question, and the way the answer is formatted, people are making decision based on that. So people need to design how that answer is outputted to get the right type of action to be done by the user, right? So there are new types of jobs coming, and people need to understand that they need to evolve and start adopting these new skills and get into these new types of jobs instead of trying to hold on to what they have and keeping things the way they are. Technology is going to evolve. It's only going to make life better for everyone, right? It has done the same way over the years, starting from the age of industrialization.
And that's the thing, even in what I do every day, I leverage AI and have integrated it into my workflow. And when we talk about creating titles and descriptions for clients or prepping, I remember when I started my podcast and we launched November 1st, 2022, I would manually do, and I still pretty much manually do it, but I sit for 2 hours per guest I had to prep a podcast. And I prep every single podcast I had. And it was okay, making sure the intro flowed and was like in words the same way I was seeing it in my mind. The questions, right? And then like tweaking the questions, going back and really thinking in depth of like, I want to ask this question. How do I ask it? Right. And now prepping takes me 30 minutes max. I've cut an hour and a half off of every interview I do because I go into ChatGPT or Copilot, depending on what tool I want to use that day, knowing the data I want to pull. And I will have that uh, file made and I'll say, is there anything else out there that I might be missing based on this information, based on this link, like search engine, and I'll prompt it to really search and pull. And sometimes I have pulled interesting things where then I'm like, Oh, I didn't know that. Even in the call we had beforehand, that wasn't mentioned. But that could be a really interesting direction to take this. And then I'll take all that and I'll put bullet notes of like, this is what I want to ask. This is what I want covered. And I go into detail and then like, can you help me create some questions? And then you go back and forth with Copilot or ChatGPT, whatever platform you want to use. But that process saves me time because I have to do the work. And the other aspect of it is you have to be able to understand how to prompt it. And this is a conversation I have all the time. It's not just putting it into an AI tool and saying, okay, give me the information. Because you can
Yeah.
get very different results.
That's exactly why we have prompt engineering as a new type of job in this AI age. And, like what you said, like you are giving a very good example that, AI is saving you time, but does not mean it's taking away your job. The time that you are saving, you are investing into improving your services and giving more value to your customer. So that's helping you in the end.
Yeah. And that being said, you've spoken here and globally on the intersection of AI and innovation. And you've also spoken and mentioned today about regulations. When it comes to implementing AI responsibly, especially in regulated industries like finance, which you specialize in, what do you see as the key pillars of AI compliance that decision makers often overlook or don't think about?
Yeah, I think, there have been many research on it. EU has already released their AI Act, right? One of the things that came out of it was, watermarking AI because, there is a lot of false information. AI makes it easy to kind of spread, false news. So, having that law to watermark any image or video created with AI as created by AI, is a good first step. And Microsoft has released a blueprint on, what should be included in AI regulation. So, the first part of it is privacy, right? So, there were many lawsuits when ChatGPT got first created that it is using the data without giving them the royalty or anything, right? Or even the credit. So there is that copyright and privacy law that people who requested their data to be removed, like GDPR is still there. So just because AI is there, it doesn't nullify GDPR. So people still have the right to their information. If they don't want that information to be available in the internet, that means that information should also not be there in an AI chatbot response, right? No, so the privacy is big aspect of it. Safety is another aspect of it that AI should not cause harm. It should not be doing something that is damaging anyone's life or career or damaging someone's reputation, right? And then fairness, because AI because it's trained on human data, if there is bias in data, there is bias in AI, right? So there have been lawsuits where there was AI driven, decisions on approving loans and credit cards, and it was found that there was bias there. The bias was there because it were trained on a data that was biased, right? So those are kind of the principles that are already there, and all of the regulation is kind of built to protect or comply with those principles. And EU has taken a first step. US is coming up with a more comprehensive regulation on that. So I think we are already making a good step towards it, and it's going to evolve over time as we see more cases.
And you're not only a leader at Microsoft, but you also just decided to found and be the CEO of Tipsora. What inspired you to start your own venture, and how has that entrepreneurial lens influenced the way you approach innovation and leadership in the corporate world, but also in having conversations with prospective clients about AI? Because now you see kind of from you have a seat in the corporate table, but you also understand the small business, medium-sized business, that on a CEO mindset as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like Microsoft is great, but when you are part of a large corporation like Microsoft, there is a lot of complex hierarchy and defined roles. So, like, I have a specific role. Within the role, I have a very narrow scope of things that I'm supposed to do. And for other things, there are other people who are in the role. So I have to make sure that I'm not stepping into somebody else's role. If something else comes in, I need to involve other people, which is fine. But sometimes, if I am acting independently, so before Microsoft, I was an independent consultant for a long time, where I was my own boss. I did everything, right? So there is pros and cons to both, but I see that being CEO of a company like Tipsora and providing fractional CTO service to companies where these are small to mid-sized companies that cannot hire like the Deloitte, Accenture, or even Microsoft of the world to give them advice, right? But that's where I come in, and I can align with the C-suite, or it's a smaller company, it could be just the owner, and advise them on how to leverage technology to gain competitive advantage, the business roadmap that they have on how they started the company and what they want to do, align that with the right technical infrastructure that is built to scale, right? And smaller companies just cannot afford that that big consulting fees. So me being a employee at Microsoft, and helping customers fractionally as an independent fractional CTO, uh, it's kind of best of both, because smaller companies, they get the expertise of someone who is an insider at Microsoft. At the same time, it gives me an opportunity to kind of test my theory and implement my ideas without restricting myself to a fixed role, or a fixed mindset that I need to only work within this range. I'm only assigned this. I only do what I am assigned to, right? So it gives me freedom to do what I can do that leads to innovation, and these two things complement each other. What I learn as a fractional CTO, I can apply at Microsoft, and what I learn at Microsoft, I can use that to give advice as a fractional CTO to a smaller company that would otherwise not be able to get.
And that being said, when you walk in the door to consult and be a fractional CTO with that smaller business and acting as the CEO of Tipsora, for you, what is the first few questions you might ask, or what information do you try to gain to understand what is the right technology, AI, automation the organization might need to even start looking at to see if it is a fit?
Yeah. I mean, it starts with, what is their business, right? How much revenue are they generating? Do they have anything built in-house in terms of technology? Did they just, buy off, different vendor product, like one ERP solution from a vendor, any, a SaaS, multiple SaaS products to do different things. So, like, what is their tech stack? What are the solutions they are using today? Or maybe they are not. It's all a manual, and it's in an Excel sheet or on a paper somewhere, right? So, I first thing is I understand their business process. Where is the revenue coming in? What is their client acquisition strategy? And what is their roadmap for growth? Right? I start from there to see, depending on where the revenue is and how much profit margin they have, how much can they really reinvest into building a technical infrastructure that would set them up for scaling in the future, right? Sometimes it could also mean that the existing technical expense that they have, for example, they have multiple SaaS products, so they're paying subscription fees on those, right? Or they have, some kind of software they bought, there is a licensing cost of that, right? So all that is existing cost that they have for technology, and on based on their profit margin, how much they can reinvest. So that's our technical budget. Based on that, I create a plan. Either I say, okay, just let's get rid of this. We can build this in house, and so replace existing technology to building stuff in house, and reinvest some of the profit that we're generating to build more product that can see ROI in the near term, right? As we invest and start generating revenue, then we again reinvest to build more technology that would again generate more business, right? So that's what I do. So one of my talk track is built on future proofing business, where the first step is to find your niche. So there is one thing that a company or even an individual does that would be hard for others to do. Once you know that, it's a matter of how much revenue you're generating. You use that to reinvest into it, right? And then you just do what you're doing, like using things like AI, make things faster and better, so you can now serve more customer, provide more value, or charge higher fees, right? You start from there, and then we scale into saying, now that we have this and this is generating revenue and we have all this data, now think of creating new product, new lines of services that is tangential to what they already have, but they never thought that this new business would be possible, right? Once we have the data and once we have the infrastructure, we can start thinking about new businesses or new lines of services that they could provide, that they didn't think before. So that's another revenue, right? At that scale, and it feeds back to the technology. Gradually you start creating your own research and development team to think about more cutting edge technology, right? Think about creating technology that the big tech might not be creating, because they are not in your business, they don't understand your need, right? So you create something that solves your problem, but is generic enough that there is a market segment for it. Now you have a tech product that you are selling to multiple customer, and now you have become a tech company, right? So my thinking is that each and every organization would eventually become a technology company. That's how you need to think about it if you want to be successful.
And I love how you bring that up, because I want to dive in to, again, I have another two aspect question. I'm really good at coming up with those in real time. The first is, do you typically see, when you walk in the door, companies that don't have tech and those automation set up, versus it, or is it on the other end of the spectrum where they do, but they have everything siloed and all these different companies coming in? I've even seen that at Fortune 500 companies, where I walked in the door, I'm like, we have so many different tech systems, and like, what's going on? So it's not a small or medium-sized business. Sometimes it gets evaluated every handful of years and goes, oh wait, light bulb, everything should be in a system that will allow us to do things better. So is it that side of things? And then I'll ask my other question.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that companies don't have tech. Even the smallest company, like I talked to a company that was a yoga studio. You don't think yoga studio would have technology, but obviously they have a website. They have a computer system where they take appointment, right? When you call in and say, I want to come in for a class, they have a billing system where, if you have a membership, there is a way to do monthly membership, and there is a way to pay per class, right? So they have something that is computerized, right? Uh, so start with that, and that's not free. They're paying something for it, right? So there is a software that they are paying, some kind of billing company to accept credit card, generate invoice, right? So there is, every company has at the basic that much. Like they have a website, they have some kind of way to do billing, right? So start from that, right? Um, and that's what I do. So use that, and the first step to do is how can I re-architect that to, bring it in-house, build something from scratch that I can customize to them, right? Because once you bring it in house, that gives you more control. Things like you want to in future create a mobile app and have your customer do yoga classes at home using the app, and the path that you created, like that would be another value add service. But that type of service, to think about creating something like that, won't be possible unless you figure out a way to re-architect how your website is done, how your billing is done, how your appointment is done, in a way that they are consistent, and you are able to generate insight that who is the customer who is booking over the phone, who is the customer who is booking online, and what are they interested in. You start generating those customer profile, and then find people similar to them who might be interested, right? So that goes into your marketing, and then that generates revenue, and it keeps feeding into building better technology to compete with others, right? So if a simple yoga company can do that, I think a community bank, a smaller investment firm, a hedge fund, insurance company, definitely can do that.
And it's also what I heard you saying there as well is it's really diving deep and understanding your process and procedures, what tools you're using, but also identifying your clients and making those client profiles. Because a lot of times people come in the door and they're like, oh, yeah, they're my client, they're signing up, blah, blah, blah. But they don't even take the moment to go, how many out of the 100%, we'll use a full pie to make it easy. The 100% or walk-ins in that yoga
Yeah,
studio. Okay, out of that, if it's 60%, that is important data to know versus
yeah,
maybe the 10% that are finding you online. And what, even then going a step farther and going, okay, those people who the bigger chunk are walk-ins, is the reason they're walk-ins, is it because easeability? Is it because they can't navigate the website? Is it because they like to use apps and there isn't an app for it? Like I recently reached out to a company I use to create uh like social media content, and I make clips out of it. And I was like, it's an editing tool. So I was using it for editing, and I'm on my PC and I'm doing it. And I'm just like, well, I'm recording the stuff on my phone or with my camera that can hook up to either thing. But if I do end up using my phone to record something, can I open it up on an app so I don't have to email it to myself, do these different steps? And reach out to them. I'm like, do you have an app? Because I can't find it on the App Store. And they're like, no, we don't have an app yet. It's just on the screen. I'm like, okay. And like this system and software is so good and helps me streamline so much stuff. I'm like, it's inconvenient in the essence that if I do record something on my phone, now I gotta email it to myself, and that takes time to like send and whatever. But I'm like, overall, I'm saving time, so I'll stay with it. But it was just that moment of like, today's age, with what you're doing, knowing people are recording on their phone, and your competitors too have like an app. Why don't you have an app? Like it was that moment of like entrepreneurship where I'm like, come on, guys, come on, what are we doing?
yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. I mean, it's a mindset shift, right? Sometimes people think that they don't have the budget, but if they work with somebody like me, I'll find a way to work within their budget and do something that they can do today to start generating new revenue that they didn't thought was possible, right? And it just starts with one simple call, right? Because they don't know what I know. They don't know what's possible, right? unless you have somebody like me um, do an analysis and come up with a strategy, you don't even know that it's possible, right? And then once you have a strategy that is practical, that is realistic, you stick to it and you see the result, and you don't know how far that can go.
And that's the thing as well, when I started achieving success, the podcast consulting, and then even when I recently started my second business, which is an apparel company that gives back to the US Coast Guard, I called people in my network and said, "Hey, you're the expert in this space. What are your thoughts on this? Can I run this idea with you?" Because and sometimes that's more of I need the validation to know whether it's like good, right? And you should be leaning on the experts. I joke like I have a minor in law. However, I have a lawyer, on call. I have a business attorney. And it's not because I can't use my law minor. They know law way better than my law minor I got like 10 years ago does, right? And so I want to be able to understand what we're talking about and be able to ask questions. But he's the guy that's going to handle it all. And so a lot of times it comes down to, hey, first, based on your expertise, do you see this working out, or is it a good route to go down, or should it be pivoted? And a lot of times, like you said, it really just starts with the phone call because I might think something, I could be completely off base, or it starts a way more in-depth important conversation to have of like, have you thought about doing it this way, or you don't need that, you need this. For you, what is it like sitting at the table when those light bulbs and conversations start to happen where it's like, oh, okay, yes, let's go, let's keep moving the needle?
Yeah, I mean, it just starts with that simple conversation that almost everyone I talk to, they come with that mindset that, oh, software technology is gonna cost a lot of money, right? And they always have this thinking that I need another pool of money to do something new. But the reality is that what they already have and what they are already spending, there is a way to restructure that to incrementally get to where they need to, right? And they don't need to spend it all at once. It's not like a big investment that they need to do, right? They can make incremental changes by simply readjusting what they do already, and that within a few days they can be where they need to be. And the revenue that they generate by investing in technology, that's just going to pay itself. I mean, technology is the biggest ROI that you can have.
And Ron, how can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you?
I mean, email, you mentioned it. I mean, I'm very active on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, and Facebook. I think LinkedIn and Instagram are the ones that I am most active on. My email, arun@arunansupatnayak.com. If you go to my website, arunansupatnayak.com, it has my email. There is a contact form you can fill out that would get me, or, just connect with me on LinkedIn and message me there.
And let me tell you guys, he's very easy to find because, as I said in this interview, I do research beforehand. And just by typing in his name, you'll be able to find him in
Yeah.
so many different places. You'll be able to watch some of his YouTube videos he has out there. He's lots of different content for people to watch and get to know him, get to know the business. His website pops up immediately. Obviously, we will put that on the description as well. But I figured I give that caveat that it
Yes.
is very easy to find him. So definitely
Yeah.
go out and find him.
Yeah. For fun fact, my name, if you know how to spell it, is unique in the world. There is no other Arunansu Pattanayak the way I spell my name. There is just no one else in the world with the same name as me spelled the way my name is spelled. So that's kind of a, inconvenience as well as blessing in itself. Like, I used to think that, oh, my parents gave me such a hard name. Nobody can pronounce it. But, in today's age where SEO is a thing, right? My name is helping my SEO because there is just no one else. Even without doing any kind of, search engine optimization, when people search my name, they only find me. Like the entire first page is filled with links only from my site, right? And that I got all that without even doing any work, thanks to my name.
Isn't that a blessing? I remember too when I started achieving success and searched and like nothing was using achieving success. And now like fully organically the first 5 pages are Google if you put in Olivia Akin or achieving success, just also because there has been so much stuff. But I'm like, oh, this is really nice. Like there the blessings and like the power of technology and different tools. So thank you, Aaron, for all of your insight today. It was very joyous to have you on today.
Thanks for having me. It was great talking to you.
And a few of our key takeaways from today's conversation include you have to evolve with change. As Aaron said, if you're not evolving with change, you're going to be left behind, especially with technology. And I love how he used the analogy in the beginning of we used to not have computers, and then computers got brought in, and then new jobs got made because we had computers, and then the internet, right? And then we got phones. And so even though we're evolving and our space is changing, there's so many doors that open up to that, but change is inevitable. So you have to get on board with it as well and become a leader in the space and how to utilize it and really understand what you should be using and why you should be using it, as well as if your process depends on people, the work you get won't always be consistent, that output. And automation allows you to get the consistency. I think it's so important to take this and sit with it for a minute because so many of us do a job every single day, whatever we're doing. Even if you're a stay-at-home mom, you're performing a job and doing a role. And there's tasks in those roles that we do every single day. And so where if you're especially a business owner or a team leader and you're looking at data or roles and you have to have things put into systems, if it's not, as Aaron said, if people are handling every piece of it, there's the inconsistency. Is it done right? Right? That's a big thing I brought up and we talked about earlier. It's not just about doing it, it's about doing it the correct way to get the output you want. I think it's really important to understand that the automation allows you to get the consistency as well as time back. And I think time is really important that Aaron brought up is that it isn't that now we're just not doing things. We're able to invest it, as he says, into other aspects of growth, of work in our personal lives, whatever it might be. And probably one of my favorites that Aaron brought up is AI is the evolution of automation. So when you take a step back and sit and think about what is AI, why should I use it? And you get that fear we talked about or the unknown of what is it going to do? What are the benefits? Think about automation and how you're using that in your role in your business today and then take it a step further and go, okay, AI is now above that. That is the next step. What can I do to climb higher up the ladder? Start leveraging and understanding, as Aaron said, and that's a key point I want to also highlight, understanding how to use AI and as well. And what goes with that is the understanding of the human is driving the car and AI is doing the tasks, hitting those buttons, knowing when to switch lanes. It's telling you, it's helping you, it's a partner with you. as well as it all starts with the call. As Aaron says, the first step you got to do is pick up the phone and call. Call him, ask him questions. He will sit down and understand your business, where you sit now, potential things you could be doing. And I think that is key. And lastly, my second favorite of today is tech is your biggest ROI you can have. So one of the questions I want to leave everyone with today to evaluate is, how are they using AI currently, and how are they leveraging tech to get their ROI in their business? This was a great episode with our top-notch guest, Arunansu Pattanayak. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.